It may seem difficult right now because you're in the middle of financial woes and probably financial blows. When my ex and I went before the judge to have the financial discussion, it was not easy. We did not do it well the first time. Here's the thing that supported me. If you and your ex are choosing not to have a lawyer in the beginning, you can do it amicably without the extra expense of a lawyer. Do it. But when you do that, hey now, how is everybody doing? Welcome to Red Alert Diaries with Tanya E. Hood. I'm glad I get the chance to see you again. And today I wanted to share 5 things that helped me get through the financial turmoil in the aftermath of my divorce. Many of you already know that divorce left me broke as well as broken. I was unemployed at the time that my divorce ended. And in that unemployment, I had to figure out how to deal with the bills because the bills didn't know that we got divorced. They just kept on coming, acting like it really needed both incomes to keep moving through the process. So, to help me get into a better position, I want to talk to you about some of the things that you can consider as you transition towards a new chapter in your life so that you can have better and be more confident and resilient as you move through this process. First, you need to understand your financial situation. Now, I get it. If you are unemployed, it's real clear that there's no money coming in. But you got to still figure out, what does it look like? Knowing your financial situation also means knowing what assets you have, what debts you truly have incurred. Because even though the expenses that were coming in were still looking like it was a dual income element, I had to recognize and then realize, what did it look like if it was just me? Because I had to give that assessment into play. So that when I called my creditors, because that was one of the techniques that I did, I was clear about what portions I really owed, how to negotiate what the debt actually looks like. Because if you don't know what you're dealing with, how are you going to negotiate any changes to it? Be clear about your debts and be clear about your expenses. They often sound like they are the same thing, but you have some elements of them that are unique. One of the first things I had to learn to do is get clear about my financial position. Go through and do an assessment about what you currently owe. What are your expenses? What are your incomes? What's your asset? So that you know what your financial position is. Then think about what you really want to have. If you are stuck like I was in the aftermath of my divorce, it was all about survival. I just got an idea of the basics that I needed so I could survive. What can I do as far as the apartment that I was in? Could I afford it? I couldn't afford it by myself. So I knew I had to get a different sort of income base associated with housing so that I could maintain it and be able to ensure that I would not go through that position where I was about to be evicted from that apartment. When you're clear about gathering all the relevant information, those documents that you need, think on a more global perspective. If you are in a relationship, still with your ex or soon to be ex, and you have not yet transitioned out of that moment, now is the time to be clear about what the expenses are. Where are all the bank accounts? We don't often consider that there are other accounts when we are walking through the path, because when you go before the judge, they're going to want to know what all of the income elements are so that you can get a proper delineation of what your finances are. But if you aren't clear about the income, you're not clear about the expenses, when it comes time for the judge to render an order for you financially, it'll just be generic. And the generic orders, that's not something you're going to want to live with or will probably be able to live with. So be clear about what your financial information is. Use this time while you're in the in between to find out all of the financial pieces. If you are the person that has typically been co-opting with your ex on the debts, it's a little easier for you. But if you have been a person where your ex has been in control over every financial decision in your home, you're going to need some help. You're going to need a lawyer. That's the second thing that I wanted to share. Start planning. See what you need to get you some planning options available. It may be a financial planner to help get your mind wrapped around what your needs are. Your divorce attorney can give you some clarity about what you may need to put inside a discovery so that a judge can make a decision. Get some outside support. And while you're in the midst of waiting for the judge to do whatever they need, document your expenses. If you're aware of your current expenses, even if you have no idea about what to do with the income stream that your ex has been managing and delegating and probably holding you hostage with, you can use this time to know what your current expenses are so that in your future walk, you'll know what to give the judge and have an idea of what your base needs are. You now have a single income. Not used to the single income, it may mean that you have to change some of the things that you were once used to. That wasn't something that I liked when I had to pull my children out of their after school activities. Already going through the turmoil of divorce, they knew that there was separation. And now I have to walk through a financial separation because I couldn't afford to keep them there. When I did that baseline of my income, it was clear to me that I couldn't afford to keep that going. So if you have to make some changes and you have children, find some other activities that your single income household can now support and set new goals, long term goals, so that when you're in this temporary moment, because I want you to know it is temporary, there will be an opportunity for you to expand yourself financially. So, in this temporary moment, think long term. What long term goals do you need to have in place to help you remember this is not going to be this way always and start moving towards that goal? I had $50 a month. That was all that I could envision setting aside for my children. $50 a month to plan for my future. I no longer had a 401k because I had to dissolve it in the divorce. I no longer had a savings account because the living that I was trying to do on a regular basis, because initially I didn't have the financial support I thought I would. And that gap, man, that gap between what you know you are expecting and what you are currently living, it can be long. So my savings got depleted in that process. If you find yourself there, just start putting away small amounts. Get a small nest egg for what it looks like. And for me, my financial gap on a monthly basis, and you may need to start there, was $300. I was $300 away from some catastrophe, putting me in a position where I was once again going to end up being evicted from my apartment. I did not want to have that happen. And I knew while I was in that apartment, I wanted a home. I was raised in a home most of my life, so I wanted to go back to that experience. But getting a home, it seemed far-fetched for a little while. But here's the thing. When you walk through a certain time period, you can qualify for some of those first time home buyer elements, even if you're not a first time home buyer. There's a gap period. Depending on where you live, it can be 3 years or 5 years where you can once again qualify for some first time home buyer opportunities. And I qualify for those again later on. Took 5 years for me to get that done. But it was in the meantime setting aside my $50 a month because I knew that's where I was headed. And then when I got closer to my goal, because I had already, here's the third thing, established a financial plan so that you can deal with the assets and liabilities. I had established the plan that I needed to get me where I wanted to go by thinking long term so that my income could meet me where I wanted to be later on. So do what you need to do to support you on the journey. Here's the fourth thing, because I'm going to have to start wrapping this up. The fourth thing is seeking that legal advice, be it from the financial planner, be it from your divorce attorney, being clear about what your custody arrangements will be. When my ex and I went before the judge to have the financial discussion, it was not easy. We did not do it well the first time because initially we didn't have a judge. Here's the thing that supported me. If you and your ex are choosing not to have a lawyer in the beginning, you can do it amicably without the extra expense of a lawyer, do it. But when you do that, get it notarized. Whatever agreement you guys come up with, get it notarize. That notary is your financial support and legal support as well in that moment. Because the financial agreement that my ex and I derived initially in our divorce, it got added on to our divorce decree that we filed. Years later, when I was being brought back to court for more financial concerns, that was one of the things that supported me. It made a fair playground for him as well as for me. And it often doesn't look like when you wanted to make some changes later on that what you initially had was still thought on a fair thought process. But in those moments, if you choose not to have a lawyer, you are mostly more fair with one another. You have more considerations of one another. So that can be a good level ground to start. So when you walk back in your next financial moments, you may need to get an attorney. That's my last one. 5, consult a divorce attorney so that you know what rights and options that you have. Being clear about what we had initially when we were still operating in some semblance of fairness with each other and making the decisions that we're walking through. That was something that my divorce lawyer could go back to and start as a foundation to build a new financial agreement. That new financial agreement was a struggle, but I don't think I spent nearly as much money as it would have cost had we not had it. So walk through those journeys. So my 5 for you: first, understand your financial situation and gather what you need along the way. Use this time in between to get the relevant documents. Number 2, start planning for your futures. Establish what your single income household looks like and start setting long-term goals because your situation right now, it's not going to be always. Number 3, establish a financial plan. Knowing what your assets and liabilities are ensures that you have a smoother transition towards your financial independence. It may not be really intuitive now, but trust me, it'll be helpful later on. Number 4, seek the legal advice that you need to draw up the custody agreement, whatever legal matters are associated with it, along with number 5, consulting a divorce attorney. Because if you establish what you need beforehand, without an attorney, get a notary so that you can have that as your landing pad. Now, before I go into the final thing I want you to know today, here's something I want you to remember. Healing takes time. In the middle of this moment, while you're dissolving your relationship, ending your marriage and divorce, you are not in the right mental mind frame to be able to do this appropriately. Be patient with yourself. Give yourself the grace and space that you would give someone else if they were coming to you. Allow yourself to grieve the end of that relationship. Because I got married at 21. At 21 years old, Tanya just knew she was going to be doing this for the rest of her life. And it ended. And in my 30s, I had to rediscover myself, recuperate what I felt was lost, and embrace the opportunity to have a new beginning. Because initially it didn't feel like an opportunity. But I want you to know when you're walking through the storm, keep walking. Write down what you need and have someone around you to join you on the journey. Get involved with a group. Facebook has a lot of groups. There's a lot of circle things coming up. We have threads. There's all kinds of social media elements that can put you together with a tribe of people walking through the same journey. And for those of you that are joining me that are inside the tribes that I'm a part of, reach out to me. Let me know how else I can support you. Because I do these to share my insight, to share my walk, to share with you the landmines I have already crossed so that you don't have to walk through that journey again. And so for today, if you don't remember anything else I've shared, here's the one thing I want you to know. You can get through this. It may seem difficult right now because you're in the middle of financial woes and probably financial blows, but you have the ability to reset yourself in a financial position, to do what is necessary to support you. Let these 5 tips be an initial starting point for you. And if you want someone to join you on the journey, feel free to go to my website, tanyaehood.com. There you can click under the Work With Me tab and see the various ways that we can work with one another. And if you're on YouTube, you can join me live every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. There's a link down below that can give you the opportunity to join me live on Zoom because I host them there at this time. And if you want to join with me, just click so we can have an extended conversation. I would love to have the discussion with you. And if you need to pivot along the way, we can do that as well. In the meantime, this is Tanya E. Hood, walking in my purpose, and I want you to do the same.